The gates of Blackest, the iron gates of Blackest Castle groaned as Raya pushed them open, the sound echoing through the mist-shrouded valley like a dying man's last breath. She had traveled across Europe to escape a broken engagement, but as she looked up at the jagged stone turrets, she didn't feel peace. She felt watched. The castle felt alive, a cold stone titan exhaling shadows. As she stepped into the grand hall, the air grew thick with the scent of old parchment, damp earth, and something dangerously sweet like lily at a funeral. Her wrist, marked by a birthmark she'd had since childhood, began to throb with a dull, rhythmic heat. She was here to restore art, but the castle felt like it wanted to restore a memory she had spent lifetimes trying to forget. The face in the canvas. The grand gallery was a graveyard of forgotten nobility. In the center stood the reason for her arrival, a massive, soot-covered portrait of a queen from a lost era. As Raya picked up her scalpel and carefully scraped away a layer of grime, her heart skipped a beat. Beneath the dirt lay a face that was a mirror image of her own. The same auburn hair, the same amber eyes. But it was the detail in the queen's hand that made Raya's blood turn to ice. The woman in the painting held a silver crescent moon pendant, the exact same heirloom Raya's grandmother had left her. Currently hidden beneath her sweater, the shadow in the library. She was a liar, you know. Most queens are. The voice was a low, velvet rasp that seemed to come from the walls themselves. Raya spun around, her brush clattering to the floor. Standing in the doorway of the darkened library was a man who looked like he had been forged from night and starlight. Caspian. One of his eyes was a chilling, human blue. The other glowed with a predatory, lupin amber. He didn't walk. He stalked, his presence filling the room until the oxygen felt scarce. Raya felt an instinctive urge to run, yet her feet stayed rooted to the spot, drawn to him by a magnetic pull, so violent it made her dizzy. The predator's touch Caspian closed the distance between them in a heartbeat, his tall frame looming over her. He reached out, his long, pale fingers hovering just inches from her throat. He wasn't touching her, but Raya could feel the heat radiating from him, a chaotic mix of a vampire's chill and a werewolf's fever. "Do you remember this place, Raya?" He whispered, his golden eye fixated on her wrist. "I've never been here?" she managed to gasp, though her pulse betrayed her, thundering against her skin. "Your soul remembers," he countered, his voice dripping with a bitterness she couldn't understand. "It remembers the cold stone and the smell of betrayal. Visions of fire that night. Raya didn't sleep. She drowned in the past. In her dream, she wasn't a conservator in jeans and a sweater. She was Luna, draped in heavy velvet, her hands trembling as she held a torch. She was leading a line of hooded men with silver crosses down into a dungeon. She saw the man in the cell Caspian younger, more human, but still radiant with power. "I do this for your own good." She heard herself scream in the dream, her voice distorted by grief. She watched as she handed a silver dagger to the High Inquisitor. The dream ended with a scream that wasn't hers, but Caspian's, the Guardian's warning the next morning. Grant, the castle's young caretaker, found Raya in the kitchen. His face was pale, his eyes darting toward the stairs. "You need to leave, Raya, before the moon is full," he whispered, grabbing her arm. "My family has guarded this place for centuries to keep him in. But he's not trapped anymore. He's waiting. He believes you are the one who gave him to the Inquisition. He doesn't want your love, Raya. He wants the blood you owed him 500 years ago." "Welcome home, traitor." Raya ran back to the gallery, needing to see the painting one more time. But Caspian was already there. The sun had set, and the wolf inside him was clawing at the surface. His movements were jagged, his breath coming in heavy growls. He ripped open his silk shirt, bearing a muscular chest marred by a jagged silver-white scar right over his heart. "Look at it," he roared, the amber in his eyes swallowing the blue. "This is where your mercy landed, Raya. You didn't just break our bond. You gave me to the monsters so they could turn me into this." He stepped into the moonlight, his fangs lengthening, his shadow stretching across the floor like a beast's. "I have waited 5 centuries to feel your heartbeat stop under my hand. Welcome home, traitor." The air in the gallery felt like a physical weight, vibrating with the low, predatory hum of Caspian's growl. Raya backed away, her heart hammering against her ribs like a trapped bird. The man, the beast before her, was a storm of grief and rage. He had called her a traitor, but the pain in his eyes felt too raw, too personal for a crime committed centuries ago. "I don't know who Luna was," she cried out, her back hitting the cold stone wall. "I am just a restorer, Caspian. I don't owe you my blood." Caspian lunged, pinning her against the wall with his massive frame. He didn't strike. He leaned in, his nose brushing the pulse point on her neck. He inhaled sharply, a shudder racking his powerful body. "You smell of her," he hissed, his voice a jagged edge of silk and gravel. "You smell of summer rain, and the same silver lace flower she wore when she kissed me before the guards arrived. Your soul is stained with the same ink, Raya." Yet, as his fangs grazed her skin, he hesitated. The amber fire in his eyes flickered, clashing with the tormented human blue. The magnetic pull she had felt since arriving intensified, a searing heat blooming where their bodies touched. It wasn't just fear, it was a recognition. Her birthmark on her wrist began to glow with a faint, ghostly light, pulsing in perfect synchronization with the rhythmic thrum of Caspian's heart. Over the next few days, the castle became a gilded cage. Raya found herself drawn back to the library, searching through dusty, moth-eaten chronicles of the Blackest lineage. She found a hidden journal hidden beneath a loose floorboard, the diary of a court mage named Adrien. As she read the frantic, spindly handwriting, the truth began to warp. Adrie hadn't been a servant. He had been a puppeteer. He had coveted the Alpha King's power and Luna's light. The journal spoke of shadow veils, spells capable of altering memories, making a lover see their partner as a monster. "He made me do it," Raya whispered, the words tasting like ash. She saw a sketch in the book, a crescent moon pendant, the same one she wore. It wasn't a family heirloom. It was a conduit, a device used by Adrien to bind Luna's will. She confronted Caspian in the moonlit courtyard, where he stood amidst the ruins of a rose garden. He looked like a fallen god, his silhouette sharp against the silver sky. "You think I chose to betray you," she said, her voice steady despite her trembling hands. She held out the pendant, the silver glinting like a warning. "But look at this, Caspian. It's not a gift. It's a lock. We were both his prey." Caspian turned, his yellow eye narrowing. "Excuses won't heal the silver in my blood, Raya. He gave me this curse because you brought him to my door. Because he made me believe you are going to slaughter our people." She shot back, stepping into his personal space, defying the predator. "He showed me visions of you as a mindless killer. I didn't want you dead. I wanted to save the village. He used my love for them to destroy my love for you." As she spoke, a low, guttural howl echoed from the forest surrounding the castle. It wasn't a wolf's cry, it was something hollow, ancient, and hungry. The shadow guards, the husks Adrien had left behind, were stirring. The mage's influence was still alive within the castle walls. Sensing that the king and the traitor were starting to remember the truth, Caspian's form rippled, his claws extending as he sensed the threat. He looked at Raya, the hatred in his gaze wavering, replaced by a terrifying, possessive hunger. "If you are lying, I will tear the truth from your throat," he vowed, pulling her flush against him. "But if you are telling the truth, then Adrien still owes us a life, and I will burn this world to find him." The bond, long dormant and scarred, began to stitch itself back together. It was a painful, raw connection, built on a foundation of blood and broken promises. As the first shadow beast clawed at the castle gates, Raya realized that to survive the night, she would have to do more than restore a painting. She would have to restore the king. The sky above Blackest Castle bled into a bruised purple as the shadow beasts Adrian's ancient, spiteful construct scaled the stone walls. Inside the hall, the air was freezing, vibrating with malevolent energy. Caspian stood at the center, his form flickering between man and apex predator. "They are coming for the pendant, Raya," Caspian rasped, his amber eye burning like a dying sun. "It is the anchor for my curse. If it shatters, I shatter with it." Raya looked at the silver crescent in her hand. It pulsed with a sickly violet light. She finally understood the mage's ultimate cruelty. The only way to free Caspian was to destroy the link to his soul. But Adrian's journal had whispered a secret. The bond could only be cleansed by the blood of the one who originally broke it. "I have to fix this, Caspian," Raya whispered. She stepped toward him, defying the terrifying aura of power radiating from his body. "I have to break the lock on our hearts." A massive shadow beast crashed through the stained glass window. Caspian roared, a sound that shook the castle's foundations. He intercepted the creature in mid-air, fighting with feral, desperate grace. But for every monster he felled, 3 more emerged from the darkness. Raya ran to the ancient altar. She took her conservation scalpel and looked at Caspian, who was being overwhelmed by the shadows. "Caspian, look at me," she screamed. The hybrid king turned. In that split second, centuries of hatred evaporated. He saw not the traitor, but the woman who had spent lifetimes searching for him. "I choose you," Raya cried. In every life, she didn't shatter the pendant. Instead, she sliced her palm, letting her blood spill over the silver crescent. As the warm crimson touched the metal, the violet glow was extinguished by a brilliant golden light. The silver melted, flowing into Raya's skin, tracing a path to her heart. A shockwave of pure energy blasted the beasts into dust. Caspian fell to his knees, screaming as the black, oily curse was burned away. His yellow eye faded, returning to a soulful human blue. The jagged scar on his chest, the mark of her ancient betrayal, finally closed. The silence that followed was sacred. Caspian rose and walked toward Raya. He reached out, his hand cupping her cheek. His touch was finally warm. "The debt is paid," he whispered. He pulled her into a kiss that tasted of salt and centuries of longing. The magnetic pull finally snapped into place. As the sun rose over the peaks, the curse was lifted. They were no longer a king of shadows and a traitor. They were 2 souls who had outrun time itself. "Our story isn't a tragedy anymore, Raya," Caspian whispered against her skin. "It's just beginning."